I can agree, Jubilee's just a screen name, but my
Hello, everyone. It's good to see you. Welcome in. Tonight, we are going live with our book club, our second book club, talking about The Giver from Lois Lowry. It's good to see you. As you can see, I've got a bunch of other people on screen. I'm going to unmute them in a moment so that we can talk to them and say hi. I'm so glad you're here. I'm in the top center, if you haven't figured that out, with my lovely actual green screen behind me. But yeah, so I hope you've been doing well. I can't wait for tomorrow, too, when we get back into more of the War of the Worlds. But, yeah, so here we go. I'm going to unmute everybody else so that you can hear them as well. And Skunk, good to see you. Thank you for coming in. Really appreciate it. I'm so glad you're here. Okay.
Can you read a phone book really quick?
I just said hello to my chatters, so they can all hear you now, so be on your best behavior.
Hello.
Oh, hi.
Can I get that number code one more time? 80.
Well, we are now live, so I'll type it into. Well, you'll get the room code as in just a moment. But hello, welcome everyone to tonight's stream. Let me activate the desktop audio so you can hear all these wonderful people that I have with me today. So, tonight we have our book club stream. So welcome to all of our wonderful members of the United Storytellers group, our book club streamers. For tonight, we have been reading The Giver by Lois Lowry.
The Giver.
A fantastic little book, and for the last little month, and we would like to discuss it with you guys. So please, everyone that is visible, everyone that is viewing this, that is in any of the streams that are live, please do definitely give us your opinions. Let us know what you want. We'll be checking in with our various chats so that we know what you think and get involved in the discussions. So, let me introduce myself. For those that don't know me, I am Aaron. Aaron Smith Audio is my Twitch channel. And I am an audiobook narrator by trade. I love the performance side of reading, and that's why I joined in with these wonderful people to get involved in all of this. I am going to move over an introduction to our wonderful witch medic, if you would.
Hello, everyone. Yes, my name is Witch Medic. You can also call me Amy. I have been streaming for a little bit. I'm super close to affiliate, so a little shameless shout out there for anyone. But I've been
She is very cool
in the
too.
tech industry for about a couple years now, and have finally gotten the computer to have a wonderful stream. So happy to be here. I'm gonna actually pass it off to Jeff.
Hello. I'm so glad to be here after a bit of a hiatus from streaming. I had my first stream back this week. I love to read things on the internet and talk about them, so this is literally my sweet spot. Hanging out today, we read The Giver. I'm hyped for it. Read it in high school, or not high school, read it in grade school. Wow, that'd be a interesting read for high school. I read it in grade school, and it totally went over my head, and so it's been fun diving back into it. And I'm so excited for the discussions that are going to happen today, because that's kind of what we do on my channel. We discuss, we talk about the books, we don't just read them. And I want to pass it off to my good friend Koro to hear a little bit of introduction for him.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Welcome everybody to the book club. Yes, my name is Ika Coral.
Very cool guy.
Books. This book we read, The Giver, I kind of share the same sentiments as Jeffrey about how it kind of flew over my head, but then when I gave it this read, I was blown away. So I'm pretty excited. I usually share a lot about how I feel, what I think about a book during my streams. So today, especially, I just want to listen to all the other streamers that read the book and know how they feel, how they think. So thank you. I'll pass it on to Jubilee.
Hello, my name is Jubilee, and
She's the
I'm
one on the
on your
bottom that
stream, but
doesn't have a
not in
image.
real life. Thank you guys for allowing me to be part of the book club. I've been streaming reading
Pokemon.
books since February of 2020, and in my prior life to streaming, I was a reading coach at an elementary school, a librarian, and now I'm in government, so that's why I keep my face pretty much hidden. But I did read this also in
Margie, hello.
grade
Wishing
school.
all lovely
Read it
streamers a very happy
again
book club and an
for
awesome chat. Thank you
um,
so much.
a class that I
Appreciate
was
you
taking
popping
in
in. I
college.
really do.
Loved it both times. I'm so glad that we actually
We're
get to
just
read this
getting into
for
the
this reading
introductions.
stream and for the book club. Um, I I've always grown up around books. They were my mainstay. That was the place that I went to hide when things were crazy in my family. And so knowing that there's other people out there that have the same love of books as I do, I'm just super thrilled to be part of this. And I'm going to throw the shout out over to Atkinson.
All right, thank you so much. Hello, everybody. I am Atkinson1020. I've only been streaming for a few months, but it has certainly been a peace of mind for me. I stream every Sundays, 2 p.m. Central Time. Right now, we're reading The War of the Worlds, and we are thoroughly enjoying it. I'm a big fan of this concept of finding people to match a book that they can really enjoy and just opening up this world of reading and realizing that you can be any level of reader. It took me a long time to realize that reading was a good thing. I'm in my mid to late 30s now, without, aging myself. But it's been a great fun for me. It's been such a relaxing time. I love being here with all of you. And yeah, this book club is pretty fantastic. So last but not least, I pass off to the wonderful recreational rogue.
Hi, everybody. I am the recreational rogue. Also, sorry, had to switch screens. Hi, everybody. I am the recreational rogue. You can call me Kat. And I stream on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I am primarily a reading streamer as well, with a little bit of peppering of maker streaming in there as well. I do cosplay and crafts sometimes. But I have been addicted to reading for as long as I can remember. It's always been an escape route for me, a way to explore different worlds and perspectives. And I found as I got older that I really didn't have time to sit down and read as much. I was turning to audiobooks a
Adulting.
whole lot, which are fantastic. There's nothing wrong with that. But I found that it was harder to connect with people over sharing books because I wasn't reading the same thing as everybody else. So I turned to streaming as a way to get to have an interactive book club experience. And much like many of the other streamers have mentioned here, I've been so pleased with the result of it. It's so fun to react in real time with people as you're reading a book, aside from just this typical, book club format too. It's a whole lot of fun. So Tuesdays and Thursdays, we stream only for about an hour and a half on my stream. Right now we are reading A River of Secrets by Alexandria Weiss and Lucas Esther. And
It's a great book, too.
It's a fantastic community that we've built, and I hope that you guys will enjoy some streams with me as well as streams with these other reading streamers here. I'm so glad to get to be part of a group of other people doing the same thing. It's been really exciting to find buddies.
And for those that
Alright.
want the USG
So
Discord,
thank you everyone.
that
for,
is it right
for
there.
Being here, the
If you need
wonderful,
my Discord,
streamers and you viewers.
there's a link for that
So
too.
as I mentioned before, we are doing the book club about The Giver by Lois Lowry. Now, hopefully, all of you did the homework and you read the book in the past couple of weeks, and you know that the
Given
Giver
Alvin movie was
is
amazing. The only
a
one thing that bugged me was how the
dystopian
author left the
setting
ending to the
book
reader's
that,
imagination.
That
I
has
like a little
some
more closure with an
interesting
exceptional story
quirks to the
taker.
way that they live. And
Yeah.
what we're going to do in just
I've only
a
read the
moment
first one of the
is
four,
test you
but
all on your knowledge
ending,
of
oof,
the book.
that was
So
rough.
just like we did last time, we're going to be doing a Kahoot pop quiz, a Kahoot
Quiz
trivia
time.
quiz that I have set up that you can all get involved in, viewers, streamers alike, to be able to do so. So jump over to TV, I believe the website is, and I'll give you the room code in just a second as I
I'm going to move over there now.
to the proper screen.
And it wants me to put in the game pin. No, I
think
shouldn't.
it's kahoot.it.
You are correct. This is kahoot.it.
Hopefully my game
Thank you.
will catch up, because I already entered in the game code. Or
All
the
right,
pin,
there
I
we
should
go.
say.
We are on the right screen. So, for those that would like to join, the room code is 8079693. That is 8079693. We'll give a couple minutes. We have a plan to give a few moments to be able to have people jump in. And while we do so, I just want to get some general feeling about The Giver. Did you all enjoy it?
I really enjoyed it.
Yes. I'm very impressed how you guys got to read this before. Like
You
that's
didn't get to?
that's a curriculum. No, I started reading more advanced books like maybe in high school. Like even junior high, not a lot of reading, which is really strange for schools.
Interesting. I think
The
this was
Giver
like
would have been
grade
a little intense, I think.
I think I was in a grade 7-8
Oops.
split class and we read
There
it.
we go.
I was grade 7, but it was like a grade 8 book and I read it that year and it just like everything went over my head. I remember when I was reading through it this time and like getting to the point where it's like, oh, he has like, you know, an erotic dream, and then it's like, well, you have to start taking pills. And I'm like, I don't think I clicked at all with the fact that they're like medically castrating everyone in their community. Like I just like had no clue whatsoever, and now I'm like, holy smokes.
Oh, it's,
Like,
it's just another pill. No big deal.
yeah.
Oh gosh, it's just your vitamins. No, this actually severely reminded me of Equilibrium, that movie. Did
Oh,
anyone
yeah,
watch it?
yeah,
Yeah, you know, I was
That's
just
a
like,
movie.
wait
Yeah,
a
yeah.
second, this shutdown. Whoa, and so
That's a movie that it came out at the same time as The Matrix and just did not get its like fair play, like its fair airtime because of its like trying to compete with The Matrix.
Okay. One last quick call out for people to jump in. We're going to go live with the quiz in just about a minute's time. So jump over to kahoot.it with game pin 8079693. We've currently got Kat, Jeffrey, Koro, Witchmedic, Jubles, Atkinson, and Skunk. So welcome, Skunk. But if anyone else would like to
Skunk.
get involved, please do get involved.
I'm gonna have to see if the like once the game actually kicks in, if it's gonna show it properly. Because on my sharing, it still shows that I'm entering in the game pin, even though that is not true. So, technology.
Interesting. I just want to say I am so. This is like a subtle plug for my stream, but I'm super proud of my layout for this right now. So y'all should just pop over.
Wait, you're
and take a
gonna
look.
take a picture too, right, and post it so we
Yeah, I
can.
should take a screenshot.
Yes, please do.
All right, everyone, just stop what we're doing. Let's go to Jeffrey's.
I'm also
Oh,
like
my
2
friend.
follows away from 50, so that would be cool.
Yes, get these wonderful people affiliate. I mean, I was very lucky. I managed to get it not too long ago, and it's very helpful. So please do support these wonderful people.
It is indeed.
For those that are watching on my stream, and I'm fairly certain because it's in the group rules, most of the, if not all of the members that are present, in their about sections, there should be a panel that gives links to each of us as well.
Yep,
so that
same
you can
in
go and
mine.
check out each other's streams.
Feel free to scroll down in the About section. All of the
Okay.
USG members are listed.
Looks like the time is right. Everyone ready?
I'm so ready.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
So, the Giver Trivia Quiz.
I feel like I'm not going to do nearly as well on this one as I did on the last one.
I gotta see if mine actually updates. I'm gonna have to redo
Double
the
points.
URL.
What is Lily permitted to do when she turns 8? Watch movies, ride a bike, wear a front
Oh, I
buttoning
already picked
top,
the wrong
or
one.
cut her hair? What is Lily permitted to do when she turns 8 years old? Some of these questions I may have put in answers to try and trick a few people. Particularly if you watch the movie.
And of course my screen capture isn't capturing properly.
No.
Did this last time too.
It is wear a front buttoning top. She gets a bike at 9 years old. They cut their hair at 11. And watching movies is just not a thing. Or at least it's not mentioned. You look like you were a little sad there, Amy.
I was clearly wrong.
It tells
Alright.
me you're in 6th place, tied with Witch Medic. Yikes.
Next question. What does Jonas's mother's... Oh, that's supposed to be what is Jonas's mother's assignment. She's a storyteller, a nurturer, she works for the Department of Justice, or is a birth mother. What is Jonas' mother's
Dude.
assignment?
Man, my Kahoot is not
Appreciate
capturing.
that.
This is really
Bad.
unfortunate.
Appreciate you lobbing the softball on this one after that first zinger.
Hey, this is bad. This is bad.
Hey, almost everyone got that she works for the Department of Justice. Absolutely.
I'm gonna try and recapture
I
this.
remember so little all of a sudden.
Looking at the scores, Kat just took the lead off of Atkinson with 3,758 points versus 3,748 points.
We cannot let her win again, folks.
Okay, that should be better.
Question 3. Why did Jonas abandon the initial escape plan? He had a vision of failure. The giver was going to betray him. Gabriel is scheduled for release. Or Fiona changed his mind.
Oh, I feel like I got this one really wrong.
I don't have this. I don't have this.
Hey,
I said that.
almost everyone. Absolutely. Little Gabriel was scheduled for release.
Yep, I knew I got it wrong. Blah.
Oh, Kat's lead is just skyrocketed there. Question 4. What happens when you are released? You are killed, move out of your parents' home,
I got this one.
exiled to elsewhere,
Totally
or
got
freed
this.
from prison. What happens when you are released?
It's a grueling book, When you
just
learn about-
exiled to elsewhere, right, guys?
being released.
Nope. Sorry.
Depends on your definition of elsewhere.
I'm doing horrible. Not my time. Not this time.
I'm in fourth
Skunk,
place.
Good to see you on the leaderboard there. Top 5. Beating out some of the people that read the book for the stream. Okay, question 5. What was the final rule or instruction Jonas received when assigned? Do not discuss your training. You cannot apply for a spouse. You cannot apply for release, or you may die. What was the final rule or instruction Jonas
not sure about
received
this
when
one.
assigned?
You mean lie?
Lie. You may die.
Did I say lie? Yeah, sorry, you may lie.
you said you may die. I was like, oh wow, that's grim.
I mean, yeah. I guess everybody. Yeah. You know, it's fair.
Sorry, I was
Isn't he
I was
actually not
thinking
allowed
die
to request
because I
release?
just read that, yeah, he cannot apply for release, so he can't apply to die. That's why I said die.
Yeah, but I don't think that was the last one. I got it wrong.
Jubles has just taken the lead.
Yes.
Okay, here we go. We got
Question
this.
6.
Why does
Why
Jonas'
does
mother
Jonas'
discourage Lily from
mother's
becoming a birth mother?
Jonas's mother discourage Lily from becoming a birth mother? There is no honor in it. Birth mothers are lazy. Society is overpopulated. Or giving birth is dangerous.
I'm pretty sure it was the there's no honor in it,
It's dangerous.
but there could
Two
be
answers. Yeah.
Just so
Could
you
have been a
know, Kat.
couple of options actually.
Ah!
We'll see.
Yeah, just so you know, Kat, no honor whatsoever.
No honor in it, and it's dangerous. Great.
Shame. Shame.
Absolutely.
Holy shoot.
3 years and then you'll be off to do manual labor, right, Kat?
Whoa.
Isn't that what
I mean,
parenting
that's a
is?
lot of
That's the
paternal
rule.
leave. That's maternal leave is really lit there. 3 years.
Yeah,
I mean-
especially since they're taken away from you, you don't even raise them.
Parenting is a lot of manual labor. So,
Question 7.
how,
How does Jonas hide from the search planes? He brings up memories of the cold. He stays very still to avoid motion detection.
I
He
think,
covers their bodies in dirt, or Asher helps him out.
pretty sure it's memories of
Terribly.
cold,
Oh my
because I'm
gosh.
quite
Doing
sure in the book
terribly.
they're
Just
using
gonna
heat
cut my bait.
sensors to find bodies on
Aaron,
the ground.
have you seen the movie? Because I feel like some of these are tricks because it's the right answer for the movie, but the wrong answer for the book.
I watched the movie while I was creating the trivia quiz, so absolutely, yeah, that is.
I still
He's
did
trying to
not.
trivia. He
No,
was
no
trying to get me to
He's
lose my
evil.
winning streak.
I haven't watched the movie yet.
I didn't watch the movie.
Guys, I'm on the podium, making a comeback.
Yeah,
I am too, but it doesn't tell me where I am.
Cat is third with 11,364 points. Jeffrey's Webb is second with 11,416. And Jubal's
that,
is in the
Cat.
lead with 13,058 points.
Gotta be faster.
Question
here we go.
8. What is the receiver in charge of? Peace-giving, charity,
Memories. They're in
memories,
charge of
or
memories.
nothing at all?
Pizza delivery.
I was like
I
waiting
can't
for
forget
that
the
to be a
pizza
trick.
delivery.
That's a
There we go.
deliverer,
Everyone got
not a
it right.
receiver.
Oh, true.
Deliverer.
Still in fourth place. It's okay.
That
we
makes
have
it
time.
sound like there's a lot of honor in it.
We have time.
Question 9. What assignment does Jonas receive? Receiver of memory, receiver of messages, curator of courage, or memory master?
He is the
Oh,
receiver
you
of
all
Trying
memory.
got it
so
nice
hard
and
to be quick, I almost
Receiver
messed that
of
up.
memory.
I could have answered that one quicker, I think.
Very good.
I thought
Curator of
maybe it was
courage. I like that one.
a slip question in there, like a
I
trick.
was a bit confused when reading The Giver, and the main character gets assigned the position of receiver. It's like, well, hang on
Yeah,
a
that
second.
threw me for a loop until I
Yeah.
saw the book cover, and I was like, oh yeah, the book cover is it's an older guy, so that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Did. Jubal's still in the lead. Skunk, you're doing fantastically well, staying above plenty of other people, so good job there, Skunk. Question 10. What are stirrings? The feelings when someone first sees color, intense religious gatherings, leftover pancake batter, or the beginnings of sexual desire.
It's absolutely pancake batter.
Pancake batter.
Here you go, nice and quick. You all got it absolutely correct. The beginnings of sexual desire.
Bam, chicka, wow. Just kidding.
What an artful way of saying that.
Yeah. Stirrings.
What
What
happened to the last
chosen
receiver?
receiver? She became a birth mother. She got sick. She drowned. She was
Oh
released.
wait, I got it right.
I didn't.
Someone
thought I'd
was
get that wrong.
drowned.
I thought for sure I was gonna get that one wrong there for a second.
I didn't.
She requested release.
Okay.
I mean, knowing full well what release meant, it was like, whoa.
Yeah, knowing that release means you
And she
die,
did it
and
herself.
she asked
Right.
to be released, which means she asked for her own death.
All right.
It's
We
crazy.
got 9 more questions to go, and the
Still in fourth
Jeffrey
place.
is coming closer to Jubal's score there.
Come on.
Am I falling farther behind?
What is the first memory Jonas receives?
What is the first memory Jonas receives? A sunburn, a family
Christmas?
a ride on the sled through snow, or playing catch with an apple? What is the first memory Jonas receives?
It's definitely Christmas. Oh no!
Absolutely.
Oh,
a ride
no.
on sled through the snow.
I thought for sure it was Christmas.
Ah,
That was the giver's favorite memory.
favorite.
Yeah.
Ah, dang it.
Yep.
There goes my streak.
Oh, Jeffrey's Webb just took the lead with 21,024
go.
points.
In the
Cat
first
is
place.
coming up second place with
I'm
20,930 points. Just behind her is Jubal's with 20,696. So close.
I'm gutted.
Then Atkinson and Skunk. And I don't see those that are below there.
All right, we can do this.
Question 13. Why does the nurturing center release one of the twins? The mother didn't want twins. Convenient to have identical people in town. One twin is serious.
There we go.
Everyone got it correct before I even read out all the answers. It is absolutely inconvenient to have two people that look identical.
That's hard to forget.
Yeah.
It's interesting how you use the word inconvenient.
It's also weird because they're all about sameness, but having two people to the same is then taboo.
Oh, damn.
Because
Right.
the two people so the same is actually very different.
Exactly.
That's the problematic part, I guess. Yeah.
Question 14.
What happened?
What happened the first time Jonas saw beyond? He saw a pink flower. He saw Fiona's hair color. He saw his own blood.
Oh
He saw
no!
the color of an apple.
Oh, I got that wrong. I just goofed on that one big time. This is not my quiz.
Jubilee, just so you know, Canario in my chat just cheered 20 points, shouting, "Come on, Jews!"
It was the apple,
Absolutely,
not the hair.
he saw the color of the apple. That was
Yep.
the first thing he did, but we experience it through a flashback, in essence. So it's tricky there somewhat.
Tricky question, indeed. That's okay.
And Skunk just took over Atkinson's position.
I know. As soon as I clicked the answer, I was like, no.
All right, question 15. What happens to Jonas at the end?
Oh,
The
this
very
is
end.
sad.
He finds a cabin in the woods. He is captured by aliens. He dies of starvation.
Oh, poor
or he
kid.
gives too many memories away and goes insane.
I wasn't really sure
When-
how. This was so wrong.
I know I was too slow on that one.
I would prefer the alien option.
Not
Yeah.
What
I prefer
happened?
going mad.
That'd be an
really.
odd twist.
How did I get that wrong?
Does the book actually say?
I mean, technically no. That's why I chose died of starvation, because
At the end,
Yeah, it's
he goes down the
Goes down the
he
hill.
encounters the cabin and he sees the Christmas lights, and it does call out the fact that
okay.
he sees the Christmas tree, and
but it could be interpreted as he dies of starvation because as far as we knew, that only existed far in the past. So
true.
I'm challenging that question.
Okay, I'll take it up with.
I should
someone,
keep my
but
mouth
that
shut. I
question
just
put
want points for
Kat in
that.
the lead.
I'm gonna take it up with management. Oh well.
Question 16.
How does
How
the
does the
community
community
react
react to the death of a child in the river?
They hold
They hold
seminars.
seminars
They
to warn
chant his
children
name
about
over
the
and
river.
over.
They
Yes.
chant the child's name over and over. They hold a candlelight vigil, or they send casseroles to the child's parents.
Yes, they do. A lot of chanting, which starts out strong and then by the end of the day
Absolutely,
turns
they
into a
chant
whisper.
the child's name over and over.
It's very,
and then
very
they send
interesting.
casseroles to the grieving parents.
I must say, a lot of the things the town do, I don't agree with, but I do kind of like the naming convention.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Just the way that they said farewell to him by chanting his name and slowly getting quieter is the,
Hey, bro, welcome
essentially
to
as
chat.
he left them and moved further away.
You will see people
But
shortly.
the idea that
I'm just sharing the
when
quiz
the
on
older
screen
ones
right now.
are released and new children
Skunk,
are born, they
I'm-
get
I'm
the
glad
names
you got
the
ahead of
older
me.
Ones. I kind of like that idea.
Good job.
I like the reverence of the name chanting, like you were saying. Yeah.
I just didn't like the idea that after they've chanted
And
that
I'm not
name, then they're just
Actually
never speaking
looking
again,
at
as
the
if it never
chat.
happened.
I'm,
It's like
That part, yeah.
the
Looking at the
denial of
quiz.
grief, right?
but I'll be back to the chat shortly.
I
And
agree
it's a
with
denial of a lot of things. Again, they
Mhm.
pursued sameness, but they also, in a way, were just avoiding conflicts, any sort of
Mhm.
sense of conflict.
Well, question
Here
17.
we go. What
What is the first color Jonas saw? Red, green, yellow, or blue?
I'm almost
Well,
certain.
that's
Trip you
tough
up.
when the-
Yep,
The
there we
words
go.
Question.
might have been. Interesting that green and blue were on the wrong buttons there. That was a
That's what I was
random
gonna say. Yeah.
choice.
It was actually maroon.
Psychology. It's like no, it's like an illusion.
I thought
That's
that was
a
so
fun,
interesting to
like
read.
trick for people. Like writing the
It was-
word of the color, but it's put in a different color, and you have to make people say the word, but they name the color.
Yeah.
That's so difficult. I've done that before.
Super
I
fun.
will say though, it came across really well in the movie, obviously because the movie was visual. But reading the book where you don't realize that they don't see in color, and then discovering that was a really
Yeah.
fun part of the read.
I was
Yeah,
I was
I
in
feel
that
like-
what moment.
Like, wait,
It's such an
you don't know
aha
what red
moment,
is?
and it kind of sucks that if you watch the movie, you don't get that.
I thought they did artistically well with it in the movie, though, in the way that they slowly eased the colors into the film.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and even towards the end, they would flip between black and white depending on the perspective. Anyway. Right, question 18.
Here we go. What did
What
the giver
did
first
the giver first experience beyond? Telepathy, music, the color yellow, or
quite-
strange animals?
Quite sure it was music that the giver gave Jonas.
What was the giver's first beyond experience?
Pretty sure. Yes.
There you go,
Excellent.
absolutely. Yes, it was music. The
Still in
color
fifth place.
yellow was one of those tricky ones because in the movie he mentions that his first color is yellow, and in the movie he doesn't mention that he discovered music first. See how we're doing with the scores. Still a good, strong standing for everyone. Jeffrey, you are
Gotta
less
jump
than
off and
400
put a
points
away.
behind
Take it easy.
Kat.
I'll
You've
talk
got
to you
be
later. No
just
worries.
that little bit
Norse
quicker.
Meat, welcome in for that rating with a party of 11.
Question
Thank you so
19.
much. I'll be with you in just a moment.
Why is Gabriel in danger of being released? He smiles too much, he bites the nurturing staff, he is too gassy, or he is not growing fast enough.
It's either biting or
I feel
growing.
like this one's up for debate.
Norse Meat, thank you so much
Too
for coming in with that raid. Thank you so much. I apologize. I'm
Absolutely,
staring.
he's not growing fast enough.
I'm staring at the
Such a
quiz,
shame.
so it's hard for me to see. But I will be right back. We just have one more
I
question
like
left.
Gabriel.
I think.
At the end, when they finally decide to release him, is it still because of his growth size, or is it because he's not sleeping through the night?
It was. I guess, it was
I-
more the fact that he wasn't sleeping. But interestingly, it was because he wasn't sleeping now that Jonas wasn't sleeping at home.
Yeah. Which maybe he was just gassy when Jonas wasn't around.
Well, Jonas kept putting him to sleep with the memories.
Right,
With
he would.
memories.
He
I know,
passed on
I'm
the-
Being,
You're being
Yeah.
argumentative. Okay.
I am.
Last question.
How is the receiver chosen?
Genetically engineered from birth, a small birthmark on
They're
their
observed.
wrist by the last
community-
receiver, or observed ideal qualities.
Yeah. The
That was
receiver
a trick with the movie too.
That was a trick
gets
with the movie
chosen
and a bit
by
of
a community.
trick, but you
Still
all
in
got it
fifth
correct.
place.
Well done there. Observed ideal qualities.
That's all
Absolutely.
right. We're gonna go back to the raid chat so I can see
And
everybody.
the final podium
Second
is
Hello, hello. Always love to check out
Jubal's
people
in third
doing
place.
reading and book stuff on Twitch. Yes, Norse Meat, thank you so much.
Jeffrey's Web with second.
This is our second
and
Twitch
our champion
book club
once again.
of The Giver by Lois Lowry.
Cat the
Oh my
Rogue.
gosh!
We spent all
Congrats.
month reading it,
Nicely done.
and now we're all discussing it on stream. So you came in at a great
Eventually,
time.
We'll get it, guys.
We're just about to do the discussion portion. Thank you so
Well
much.
done.
If
Well
this
done.
was like an in-person book club, I
Tomorrow-
would begrudgingly give you a handshake right now. Like, but
I
I'd be
will
like
be
pretty upset about it.
Why am I that
Reading
person though? I'm just so
The War of the
competitive.
Worlds, 2
okay.
p.m. Central Time. So
I'm like over here
definitely
hovering
come
the
back for that so
keyboard.
we can actually do some
You
normal
who
reading.
wants to read Pet Cemetery?
That's my
like
Discord,
The one that has 400 pages.
and this
I
is
want to read
the
it, but I also know like,
USG
you guys know, I'd
Discord
probably
if
listen
you
to it
want
on
to
an
check
audiobook,
out
but
all
I
of
also
the
realize
USG
that's
members, the
probably
United
unrealistic to
Storytellers
expect
Group.
all of our
So,
viewers to read.
but yeah, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate that. Let me give you a shout out so that people can get your link.
That
All
was
right.
so
And one of my
fun.
viewers
Well
was
put
in
together.
6th place.
Yes, good job,
well
Skunk,
done.
for kicking me out of my 4th place spot. You're now about to get a timeout. No, I'm just kidding.
What did you come in at?
And
I came in 5th this time, which, I mean, I think this was an easier book to follow question-wise, so it was harder to beat out the competition, because I came in 3rd last time. So,
Yeah.
it's all right.
Congratulations to True Golden Eagle, who took 6th, even though he's never read it.
unless he did,
What
you
a
may never
legend.
know.
Never read it. Takes 6th place. Holy smokes.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's Martin as a whole, though, so he's pretty awesome.
Wait, he didn't read it and he got a better score than me?
Oh no.
Then both of us. Then both
Sorry.
of us.
Well, you all have 1 month to prepare for the next book club trivia quiz.
gonna,
And at the end of tonight's stream, we will announce what that book will be. But you've got a
Yes.
month to make sure that you can beat Kat.
So for those
Can
in
she
my
make
chat
it
right
3
now,
times in a
if you
row?
are subscribed to me in my Discord, the next
That's-
book club
yeah,
book
that
that
just
we're going to be
cannot
doing that I
happen.
cannot
feel like
read
I'm
on
not gonna
stream
just read
because
this
of
book, I'm
copyright
going to
issues,
study it.
I will be doing a subscriber only book reading
So
in
now
my
we get to move on
Discord.
to like my favorite
So,
part of the night, which is our
feel free to
reading
check
and
that out, too.
discussions. And the way that this works is we've got chosen 4 readers this time to give us more time to discuss what's happening. And each person is going to be reading a section of the book that they found particularly compelling or challenging. And then we're going to have some discussion around it. Ideally, the readers are going to be sharing beforehand, and I'm going first so I can kind of model this, but sharing beforehand what they're hoping that we can talk about so that you guys watching,
Yeah, it's going to be
whether
pretty
it's,
cool, Skunk. I'm looking
you're
forward
one of
to
the
it.
streamers or you're in
It's
someone's
gonna be a lot
chat,
more
you got to know what to listen for as you're listening through.
laid back.
Oh yeah, I can see how that
No fancy green
correlates to
screens,
this
you know,
topic.
just
And then we're
hanging
going to have
out.
a discussion about it, and we would love participation from everyone who's here. Think of your streamer who you're watching as your proxy. Like, you are a part of this book
getting hot
club,
in
and
here.
they are just the proxy through which you participate in it. So really feel free through your chat to participate. I'm reading first. I'm really excited. I've selected we kind of put them in order of where they are in the book. So we're starting all the way in chapter 13. Is where I'm going to be going off. Jonas has been, who is our main character,
A lot
has
of books that
been
can't be read online
selected
for legal reasons.
as
There are a
the-
ton of books
The receiver of memories.
that can't
He's
be read
receiving
online.
memories from the previous receiver of memories.
I think
and he's
the
gotten a lot
author-
of really beautiful memories, and he's gotten a lot of
The author
hard
needs to be
memories.
alive and give
One
you
of the ones
permission,
that we've been talked about
or the
already in
author
quiz
has
is
to
that he's
be-
received color, because everyone in this world sees in just black and white.
the author has
And
to
he's feeling a bit of
be
frustration. What I find really
deceased
interesting
by like
is
110 or
the giver
120 years
and
or
Jonas
something
in
like
this
that.
section, they
It's-
end up having
it's
a
crazy.
discussion about like, Jonas is kind of like, it's not fair that we don't get choices, and they have discussion about like, well, if we let people choose, what if they choose wrong? And it just left me thinking, and I reserve the right to like totally
you're
pivot
good.
this discussion and shut it down if we get like way too controversial, because I understand these are culturally like sensitive topics right now. But I'm curious, like, being a part of a society, like, we surrender certain rights. Like, we do. Like I have to wear a seatbelt when I drive, and if I don't, eventually, like, first I'll be fined and yada yada yada, but eventually I'll get my license taken away, and I'm literally not allowed to drive on the roads that I paid to help build out of my tax dollars, because I don't abide by a rule that doesn't really impact anybody else, right? So being a part of society, we give up certain rights. And the question that I have in my head is like, where's the line? Because there's some stuff we're just kind of like, well, yeah, that's fine to give up. But in the giver, they give up the right to choose their career. They give up the right to see color. They give up the right to choose the things that they wear and when they get a bicycle, all these sorts of things. And so how far is too far? That's the discussion I kind of want to have. I left in a section at the end in case that discussion gets spicy to pivot us into something else. But yeah, allow me to get my book up for us to read here.
I was going to ask, as part of this process, do you want comments to your question first, before you read, or after you read?
No, so I just kind of throwing that out where so you can be thinking about it as I read the section, and then you can kind of think about that in the context of, oh, I understand why he read this section, and here's how that relates to the book, and kind of what he's getting at with the quote that he chose. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. Just to clarify, that was all.
So, days went by, and weeks. Jonas learned through the memories and the names of colors, and now he began to see them all in his ordinary life, though he knew it was ordinary no longer, and never would be again. But they didn't last. There would be a glimpse of green, the landscape lawn around the central plaza, a bush on the riverbanks, the bright orange of pumpkins being tucked in from the agricultural fields beyond the community boundary. Seen in an instant, a flash of brilliant color, but gone again, returning to their flat, hueless shade. The giver told him that it would be a very long time before he had the colors to keep. But I want them, Jonas said angrily. It isn't fair. Nothing has color. Not fair? The giver looked at Jonas curiously. Explain what you mean. Well, Jonas had to stop and think it through. If everything's the same, then there aren't any choices. I want to wake up in the morning and decide things, a blue tunic or a red one. He looked down at himself, at the colorless fabric of his clothing. But it's all the same. Always. Then he laughed a little. I know it's not important what you wear. It doesn't matter, but it's the choosing that's important, isn't it? The giver asked him. Jonas nodded. My little brother, he began, and then he corrected himself. No, that's inaccurate. He's not my brother. Not really, but this new child that my family takes care of. His name's Gabriel? Yes, I know about Gabriel. Well, he's right at the age where he's learning so much. He grabs toys when we hold them in front of him. My father says he's learning small muscle control, and he's really cute. The giver nodded. But now that I see colors, at least sometimes, I was just thinking, what if we could hold things up that were bright red or bright yellow, and he could choose instead of the sameness? He might make wrong choices. Oh.
In the book,
Jonas
the
was silent for a
sameness is what they call everything.
I see what you
to
mean.
help
It
describe
wouldn't matter for
what
a new
everyone's
child's
experiencing,
toy, but
because everything is
later it
the same.
does matter, doesn't it? We don't dare let people make choices of their own. Not safe, the giver suggested. Definitely not safe, Jonas said with certainty. What if they were allowed to choose their own mate and chose wrong? Or what if, and then he went on, almost laughing at the absurdity, what if they chose their own jobs? Frightening, isn't it? The giver said. Jonas chuckled. Very frightening. I can't even imagine it. We really have to protect people from wrong choices. It's safer. Yes, Jonas agreed. Much safer. But when the conversation turned to other things, Jonas was left still with a feeling of frustration that he didn't understand. He found that he was angry often now, irrationally angry at his groupmates, that they were satisfied with their lives, which had none of the vibrance his own was taking on. And he was angry at himself.
For those in the chat,
that
if
he
the
could not
audio
change that for them.
for the other readers is too low,
And,
definitely tell me and I can
That
bump
is
it
the
up
end of
a
my
bit.
reading section. I am really interested to hear what you folks think.
Sounds okay. Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is we talk about this, you mentioned the term of where does the line get drawn?
Mm-hmm.
And I think about this book in particular where the giver, even, who's obviously a lot older than Jonas, has been living in this sameness since birth. So to them, the line hasn't been drawn, or at least to everybody else that doesn't have a clue. There is no line, and there never has to be a line.
Mm-hmm.
So reflecting on it and comparing it to our world in reality, it almost makes it uncomparable in my head, just because we have to find a line, whereas they don't, because they've done their best to create this utopic experience where no one needs anything, no one has a want. So yeah, that's kind of where my mind goes.
But in order to get there, right? Like in the world of the giver, like they used to have all of the things that we have. And then they made decisions to strip people of their choice in order to create the society. And they decided, what things are we willing to take away from everyone in order to have this idyllic way of being? And people decided, I'm assuming, people decided themselves, what things
This
am I
is the
willing to
biblical
give
argument
up
Lucifer had with
to
God,
be
the
a
freedom to
participant
choose wrongly.
or to build
Right?
this
Yeah, it's a good point,
idyllic
Skunk.
society for my children's generation, right?
I think the story hints a lot to, kind of what we think of as current events, wars over race and religion, or even past the history that's familiar to us and things like that. And I wish we caught a bit more of a glimpse from the memories that are shared of the transition from what we know as current history to theirs, because like you said, at some point somebody had to make the decision, we're willing to give this up, or we're willing decision for these people that we're going to give this up to reach sameness. And the movie kind of hints at that a little bit, but they don't go into it. But I really just wonder how much resistance was there, because I can't help but think about, kind of like Atkinson was saying, like for us, every time a line is drawn, there is bristling, because we are either not used to having to make a decision about said thing, or it's a change from what we are used to. So I'm just very curious about how much turmoil happened to get to sameness. Because I think in today's society, there's rules that have been in place for a very long time that, govern our lives, and we don't really think about, because again, as Atkinson said, we've grown up with them, so we don't think about them as being rigidly limiting.
It's like a whole
you
other
have to
book,
wear a
though.
seatbelt, you have to abide by the rules of the road, whatever, so be it. We just accept them for what they are. But then, for example, in this pandemic, suddenly we have to wear masks out in public, and how, for lack of a better term, violently people are picking a side on that, and how much conflict there is over a scrap of fabric or paper over your face, when it's really just because that's a new decision that we hadn't had to make until now, and how uncomfortable that is, where there's rules that we're used to living with that really are much more cumbersome, but we've accepted them because we already are adapted to them.
Because we're used to them.
Aranel in my chat brings up the same sort of thing. I wonder what happened in the past that was so terrible that they gave up everything.
What was the breaking point?
Yeah, the book talks about how it's wrong that the memories are locked away, but what if there was something that was genuinely of good reason why they did that? We don't know the original origins to judge.
Was there a major effort? Yeah.
But the question though is, like, even if there was some great injustice that brought us there, like, it's like the
Has anyone in
premise
my
of the
chat
book is that even
read
in that
The Giver?
situation, it is just not
Just
right.
out of curiosity.
Like, to strip people of all of these choices, of their individuality, of their diversity, is to actually strip them of their humanity. Right? The reason he's called the giver, okay, he's the giver because he's giving memories, but it's also like there's this implicit idea that, like, what
I
he
think
is
everyone
giving
else
is a gift.
thinks you have not.
Like, what Jonah is receiving in the pain and in the beauty is a gift. And I think that, like, we have, like, in the book, every single person has been robbed of that. They don't get to experience the heights of joy. They also get to experience the depths of sorrow. But, like, we don't really, C.S. Lewis talks about, like, love and grief as two sides of the same coin. Like, if you want to never experience grief again, then just never love, and you'll turn yourself eventually into the kind of person who can never experience grief, but you'll also never experience love, right? Like, you just can't have one without the other. And they were like, well, the grief is too bad, so we're going to give up the love. And like, Jonas is receiving the capacity again to feel the depth of emotion, the beauty of all of the feeling that's possible for people. And it's like, that's a necessary part of, like, being totally human. At least I would argue that it is.
Here's the thing, the focus is on that loss of color. Like, we're talking about the value of color on itself. And how many times have we really addressed society about color, being it skin color, being it just even normal colors? We've had these arguments. In the back, even for, Aaron, we have red versus blue. Like, that is such a common fight over things, which as we can understand about this society, they want to avoid, again, that kind of conflict, which again will give pain. And so despite that they put this lack of value with memories, they still dedicate someone to hold all of those memories and still actually hold them to such a higher degree of respect, because they have those experiences and they're able to assess and define, like, what happened in the past to bring what is only best to the present. And imagine if we weren't actually fighting each other over the skin color. how different would that be? Would it really be like the society? That's what I thought was kind of weird when I read about like, oh, there's no color. Oh shoot, like I barely caught on like, oh, there is no color, how they see the world, and that's just a little strange to me. Cause yeah, what if they make the wrong choice? What if like the color that they pick, someone else comes up and says that looks weird? Conflict. Void that. Forget it. Like it. Yeah, they take away those choices to make it easier. I guess
A
they really
wild
associate
stuffle in chat.
sameness with just
See if I
simplicity.
can catch it.
Really, trying to keep it as simple as possible, so they don't really have those complex thoughts, and therefore it comes with complex feelings and assessments, and it grows into conflict.
Yeah. Koro, I know when I tuned into your stream, you had some interesting insights on like how Jonas was like regaining some of these things, and you're learning about that in your own life. I'd love to hear if that intersects with this discussion at all.
All right. Let's start the root from your reading. When they were talking about choices,
Another
and how
biblical
the
reference
givers,
was the apple. Jonas
what
first saw
people
color, the
or
origin of wisdom
Jonas,
sin.
they were going
Yep,
back and
that's a
forth
good
about what
reference.
people can choose your own spouse,
I didn't even think about that actually.
Or they would be like, "Oh, that's a mistake."
I didn't think of this
Or
book at
what
all
people
as
can choose
a
your own jobs, and they were freaking out. They're like,
as
"I never
having a
think about
connection,
that." And honestly,
biblically,
intrinsically, for all of us, well,
all
really,
the
I
points
can't
you're
speak for
bringing up,
everybody, but from what I've seen,
they make a lot of
people
sense.
struggle really hard to find a job that fits, and people struggle to find a spouse that works for them. So those are all things that we, borderline really work for every single day. And in the book The Giver, the society they're in gives that to you. So it kind of removes all those choices, removes all those pain and experience you have to go through in order to get there. And the really cool part about the book is it was hard for me to find like what was actually the problem, because the more Jonas learned, that's more when the problem comes up, if that makes sense. So it's like Jonas versus society. The more he got to know about the societies, because this, dystopian or utopian came from experience. There's still a certain level of wisdom among all of the elderly there, especially the giver. So things have happened. We don't know about them in the book, but there has been experiences, and then people chose to give up all of these things about themselves, to the point where once Jonas relearned these, the society that he's grown in love, he still loves it, but he just learns more about it, and he starts kind of separating himself from the society and becoming more of an individual. So that's when
starts
the theme,
to question
individual versus society comes in. It's like, wow, there's so much stuff that like I like, when he learns colors, like, we can choose things now. The experience with sledding, it's so much fun, feeling of the sun, Christmas time. Like I want to experience all these things. So I thought that was really cool about the book, because I too feel that way. I think for all of us is a constant back and forth between individualism and conformity, because sometimes conformity just works, but at the same time we don't want to take away who we really are. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that's cool, man. I think just to wrap it up, because we got to continue our discussions, and I know Witch Medic's got our next reading for us, and it's going to be hype. But I think, yeah, there's a curiosity with all of us. Like, what happened that they were willing to give all of this up, right? And maybe the truth is, like, I don't know everyone here's story, but I wonder if, many of us who are here have had a hardship in our lives that we were then like, maybe it'd be worth it. Maybe it would be worth it to give up the good to not have to face this kind of bad. And that's, I guess, a part of the question of the giver. And I think a part of the challenge of the giver is like, you don't know.
I'm gonna hit on what he just said about giving up bad and good
that you experience
when I do my piece.
So
after which,
kind of interesting. Thanks so much for the discussion from all y'all, and let's pass it off to Witch Medic to hear what she's brought for us to chat about today.
Yeah, absolutely. So mine's definitely a little bit shorter, but just about these concepts that we've kind of discussed. We're talking about the importance of color, the value of color. I reached the page at chapter 16 or so, where he experiences love, like that sense of love from the memory of getting the Christmas experience. Mm-hmm. And then when he comes home, he asks his parents if they loved him, and the answer low key, I think anyone who have asked somebody if they, if you love somebody, you ask them like, hey, do you love me? If you got the answer that Jonas's parents got, you would have been like, they don't freaking love me. Oh my god.
Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind deals with
like I was crying a
this
little bit. I was
as
like, did they
well. It is
really
less
just say
painful.
this to
Better
a
in the long
child as
run, just to
well?
forget.
And that
Man, they
that
did
kind
him
of
dirty.
Interesting.
they did him so dirty, and in a way, like the way they
I have a
defined
feeling there's quite a
their
few books out
answer
there that
was just kind of like,
revolve around the
this is the
same
kind of stuff that you even talk
theme.
about with your own parents. Like when you're asking them questions and they give you like this weird, just like, that's a really one-sided answer. That's the feeling that I was just kind of like remembering. But it really brought this kind of relationship division of, usually we listen to our parents, we learn from our parents, they're the ones that are trying to pass down their knowledge and help us succeed in life in the future. But now we have a completely different relationship, the giver and the receiver, to which now we're trying to put values with learning from other people, from strangers, versus like the people immediately close to us. And so that usually is kind of a transitional point for people, growing up a little bit and trying to find their own path, is learning from more than just your family, from more than just your immediate friends. And so it's, again, short piece, so I'll just get onto that and then we can discuss. Father, mother, Jonas asked tentatively after the evening meal, I have a question I want to ask you. What is it, Jonas? His father asked. He made himself say the words, though he felt flushed with embarrassment. He had them rehearsed in his mind all the way home from the annex. Do you love me? There was an awkward silence for a moment. Then father gave a light chuckle. Jonas, you of all people, precision of language, please. What do you mean? Jonas asked. Amusement was not at all what he had anticipated. Your father means that you used a very generalized word, so meaningless that it's become almost obsolete, his mother explained carefully. Jonas stared at them. Meaningless. He had never before felt anything as meaningful as the memory. And of course, our community can't function smoothly if people don't use precise language. You could ask, do you enjoy me? The answer is yes, his mother said. Or, his father suggested, do you take pride in my accomplishments? And the answer is wholeheartedly yes. Do you understand why it's inappropriate to use a word like love? Mother asked. Jonas nodded. Yes, thank you, I do, he replied slowly. It was his first lie to his parents. Like, this is such a pinnacle conversation. A pinnacle conversation you would typically have with any child, trying to understand the concept of love. And we talked about that earlier. What if we made the wrong choice of how to love another person? Like, what pain would that give us, right? But here it is, they don't even get into it. They laugh at him. They laugh at him like, what the heck kind of question is that? Even though he's a learning child, they're not even really open to helping him understand. And at that point too, the fact that they kind of base their values on precision, like the simplicity and precision of things, like at that point I also question, like, do they even really love each other? Because they don't even know how to really define love. Have they their entire lives never really loved each other? They've never really shared that warmth that he felt from the memory. And so now he's kind of acknowledging, like, there's probably never has been love within my very own immediate family, the ones who are supposed to be the closest to me, despite all the moments and the memories they've shared together over Gabriel, over, the naming, the ceremonies. All of that was just so superficial. And that is that pain that we're, like, at least I felt, in which the society avoids completely. Like, we don't want you to feel that pain. Avoiding, passing on. Like, it's kind of that thing. I think I related a lot more because I guess this is personal, but like my parents are divorced. So, the definition of love is so skewed in that kind of, environment and that, I guess, dynamic. So here is the book that's just addressing that immediately. And I was just so taken by it.
in so many stories that that I read, you often hear the stereotypical tale of an adopted child, and this is an adopted child that joined into the family, and they have to figure out, okay, who was my real parents, and it's always the feel good that the real parents are the ones that love you. But in this world, he doesn't know his birth mother because that's very clinically performed.
Right.
His parents don't love him at all. So,
It's a cog amongst other cogs to make the society keep spinning. It's very, well, clinical in that way, but engineered is a word that comes to my mind. Reading that page and just kind of seeing that shock and awe moment for Jonas, realizing that, well, not only aren't you my parents, but I have to be really specific. You can't just say you love me. Like,
Yeah.
that's tough. That's really tough.
Societally, if Jonas's parents really loved him, right, in a way that was specific, not the generalized, so generalized the term doesn't mean anything anymore, they might favor him. And that would not be good for society, right?
That would break the rules. Extra rations for you.
Well, in the way that extra rations, or like, look what he does for Gabriel out of love, right? Throws all of the plans to the wayside, takes a drastic risk that doesn't make sense, that could sabotage their entire plan. It's something that doesn't make logical sense. But I mean, it's the right choice.
It does.
In the book, all the way they treat Gabriel, it looks like they love Gabriel.
Yeah, I was going to say that. They are putting love into action.
They care. They care so much about, like, oh, I hope he makes it. Oh, could we have, another child? Just, like, they really wanted this.
It's so shallow, though, because they could just replace him with a new one, right? Oh, that'd be sad if he went away.
Cute.
Over
I was gonna say, I
Baby
feel
Mart.
like Baby Mart. Over at Birth Mothers Are Us. I was gonna say that, like, aside from this just being heartbreaking and him realizing the lack of depth there, and I think it just is. This is like a turning point in the book where it really frames for us how removed everybody is, whether it be from the medicines that are numbing them out or whether it be from the ways that they have been taught. It's just like it really, really polarizes, like, how much more human he is becoming as he's receiving these memories as compared to the resting state of the rest of the society. I think they kind of serve as a representation of that society as a whole in those comments.
At the same time, though, because of how
Kids are
much
us,
Jonas felt that heartbreak,
How did you get the R to
because
flip
he
like that?
realized that his parents don't love him, he reflected that love onto Gabriel so much more because he knew the difference between the two and realized that a child needs love to be able to grow and be nurtured. And he practically, gave his own life there toward the end of the book, which, we're not to that part, but he gave his self to be able to keep Gabriel alive. There was so much love in him because he realized the difference between the two things, the not having love and the amount of love that he had for that child.
Can I get something confirmed? So nobody in this society feels love but the giver and the receiver, right?
That's
Yeah.
correct.
Yep.
Couldn't Jonas give the memories that he's gotten from the giver to anybody else, but he chose to give it to Gabriel?
No, he can't.
It's only certain people that can actually receive the memories, and once they are given, the person that gave them no longer has them. So they're not shared. It's more like literally cut off and passed on.
So they never
but he-
explain that in the
Chapter
book.
13. In
So I
chapter
think
13,
it's-
Jonas tries to give the awareness of color to Asher and fails. He can't do it.
Mm,
But for some reason, he's able to share with Gabriel.
Same
Yeah.
eyes.
They do hint at that. You're right. It's never fully explained, but they do hint at that.
what does that mean?
It might be a slight genetic thing that allows them to share.
I see.
It's the
Well, we
scar
know-
that Harry
Made
Potter
it
has. Same kind of thing.
Thanks for
Well,
clearing
in
up
the
for me.
movie, actually, they have a birthmark on their arm instead of eye color.
When he gives over the memory to Gabriel, he gives pleasant and beautiful memory to Gabriel, and you see it disappearing from him. I mean, that's a huge sacrifice. Now that he's learning what love is, now that he's learning what happiness is, what joy is, what all these sensations are, he gives that up because it starts to leave him.
Well, isn't that the way of love though? Like, it turns to action, right? It's not just felt and kept, like when we just keep it and bottle it up. Like, that's not, like, it has to flow somewhere. And Jonas, like, he embodies that. He receives this memory of love. He feels it. He learns of love. And in his actual learning of it, like what it's demonstrated by his actions towards Gabriel. And I think, like, they come to completion, like there's a full circle of it, right? When he finally gives away the very memory that taught him about love. But he doesn't need it anymore because he's mastered the idea.
Well,
And we
that's-
see it in that surrender, right?
What struck me is that he has learned about love in such a short amount of time, and only with specific types of memories. And yet, he all of a sudden becomes so mature beyond his years that he embodies the role of parent to this baby. And suddenly, just like a parent would, hopefully, depending on the situation, you give your child what you need because they need it. And I'm not talking about, oh, you need to brush your teeth, so I'm going to get you a toothbrush. I'm like, life and death, you need this. If it kills me, oh well. You will live because of it. And that is not something that you can teach. That is something that you have to, you figure out on your own. And in this case, in this book, I think they did an amazing job. Our author, Lois, did an amazing job of embodying what that looks like in this world that she's created. Which is, it'd be much harder to do in real life, I think, to describe that.
I think that just goes to show how natural of a human emotion love is, that he embodied it so quickly.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it.
All right. Then, as that discussion has wrapped up, I think it's about time to shift over to next in line, I think, is Atkinson.
Yeah, thanks. So I, hold on, let me get to the right page here before I knock stuff off my desk. There was a lot of options that I wanted to choose from. I mean, I found one out of the first 10 pages that I wanted to share, and I was like, wait, no. And then later I found another, and I was like, wait, no. But I finally settled on a portion from page 169 leading into 170. And it's the moment where Jonas is really grasping emotion. And the reason it hit me, and hit me hard, like I lost a few tears on this one, just because I envisioned myself, in my mind, I'm in front of a mirror, and instead of looking at myself in the reflection, I am seeing Jonas, and Jonas can see me as he looks into the mirror. And in Jonas's state of mind in the book, he wants nothing more than to trade places with me, because I can feel, I can see things, I can do things. I have all the freedoms and all the emotional responses that he is now learning about and wishes he could have, not for himself only, but also for everybody else. Whereas me, on the other hand, and I'm kind of playing off of what you said before, Jeff, when we were talking about your stuff, I can't tell you how many times I have wanted to shut everything off and instead of be in this dystopian type setting where I don't have to. And like, it's weird because I was reading this book and I'm thinking to myself, wow, this place sounds amazing. And I don't know if that's a normal response or not, but it was my response. So I'm taking it, being true to it, because all I wanted to do was trade places. I've been hitting the feels so many different times throughout my life where I feel like I get to a point where I've just had enough, and I wish I had that off button where I could just say, forget it, I'm done. But it's because of things like love for my family and friends that I don't do that, because it would be really easy to sometimes. So it just, I'll read the section now because it just kind of, like I said, it hit me right where it hurts. And I realized I chose the most awkward push to talk button I could choose. So bear with me there. Jonas trudged to the bench beside the storehouse and sat down, overwhelmed with feelings of loss. His childhood, his friendships, his carefree sense of security, all of these things seemed to be slipping away. With his new, heightened feelings, he was overwhelmed by sadness at the way the others had laughed and shouted playing at war. But he knew that they could not understand why, without the memories. He felt such love for Asher and for Fiona, but they could not feel it back without the memories. And he could not give them those. Jonas knew with certainty that he could change nothing. And even that last part for me, that's the end of the section. It's not very long, but even that little part of he knew with certainty he could change nothing mimics my stance as well. I feel like I can't change anything because I know I have to feel and I know I have emotions and I can't just turn those off. I mean, I wear them right here all day, every day. And so whether it's the heart condition or the trauma from my childhood or continued trauma as an adult because of the heart condition, and throw in extra stuff, PTSD, all that wonderful annoyingness. When you get to a certain level, your cup can only go so far. There's only so much room in the cup. And I would, like I said, I would have given anything to become part of that society where sameness was all around me and I could take a break. I don't know if I'd want to stay there forever, but being able to go on a sameness vacation,
Now, Atkinson,
that'd be great.
but you have someone new following you.
Pause. Just having an actual pause of peace.
Thank you, Doodleboo, for
quiet,
following. Appreciate that.
Consistency comforts us. It does.
We all go through stuff.
Yeah.
There's, you can't deny that. Everyone, like we said before, everyone's got a story. Everyone's experienced things. And I don't know, this book for a while, until the ending, of course, just seemed like something I'd be interested in. Like, is there a brochure? Is there a website I go to? So yeah, it just, when I read that, I had to take a break because it just brought everything back, and it hurt.
Yeah. That's real, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
I'd
Yeah,
like to go ahead.
No, you go first, Ika.
Yeah, I like to kind of go off on the whole feelings and experiences, that pain that each person deals with on their own, because I will me personally, I'll never 100% understand somebody's experience. I've never gone through it. That's why it's so important for us to share our feelings, share our thoughts. But I think for all of us, we can say for certainty, the other person won't fully understand, but we do our best. And the cool part about the society is that they do understand that. That's why they have that sharing of feelings at the end of the day. And it seems like in every situation, in a way, like the person feels they have some reason why, like, oh, we know why you're feeling that way. It's because of this, because you did this. But when you really have those individual experiences that the giver and the receiver has, there's just no way to explain it to somebody else sometimes. So I thought that was an interesting dynamic to the book, something that resonates with me in reality too. So thanks for
Yeah.
that.
I think one of the big things to me that comes out of Jonas's experience is like in his good feelings and in his like feelings of like despair and the big heavy dark feelings, like he just ends up so flippin' lonely. And like that has been true for me. Like in my life with, you know, so like I have chronic pain. I have for like over a decade, and that's just, that's a part of my life. But like people just don't understand that, and they're like afraid of your pain because like, you know, I'm like a young, healthy person. How could I live with chronic pain, right? And like, oh no,
Yeah.
that could happen to me. And so they always like try to be like, well, have you tried this? And it's
I
like,
resonate with
no,
that.
you know what? I've never tried drinking more water. That must fix it. Thanks so much. But it's like it's out of they're just scared. They're so scared of your pain, and it's so profoundly lonely and exhausting, right? And Jonas, like you see that in Jonas, not just in his awful feelings, but also in like the good things, like where he gets to see color and it just makes him lonely. And there's like this profound truth to me of like, we exist for community. Like
Jonas
we
is
just
now
like our feelings are
isolated.
made to be shared. And when we come across these things this is why group therapy is huge, right? Like we come across these things that we just like, you feel so isolated. Nobody knows what I feel like. Nobody knows. Like, it is so profoundly life-giving to just talk to someone who is also like, oh yeah, no, I've like, it's not the same, but I've lived with chronic pain for 2 decades, and it hurts and it sucks, and I'm tired all the time too, and I feel that. You're like, thank you for not trying to fix it or being scared of it. Thank you for just like acknowledging that it sucks, and like, can we just sit together in that?
There
It's just a
is,
little less lonely.
yeah, no, there is a true talk. There's a TED talk by Irene Brown, and she talks about how much more meaningful and how much actually relieved we feel to be able to
Beauty
share our
is
pain
lonely when
and
you realize you
have
cannot
people,
share it. Good point.
not even
Yeah,
if they don't experience the
absolutely.
exact same way, but can empathize, can understand that there is pain and suffering within our very small human lives. There is always going to be pain and suffering. And in fact, as I think I read in a different book, but it's been our whole process, which this is going to sound horrible because we do have a mom, an upcoming mom here. Like giving birth is painful. In the whole entire essence and the process of giving birth, it is painful. And the fact that there is actually, the first response of a born baby to cry is like their response to their first and initial feeling of pain, of leaving what is very comforting and safe into an outside world that they have no idea about and is all definitely filled with different experiences of pain. But as you just said, when you're able to just sit down with someone and finally be able to share that, and someone can actually hear you and say, yo, I hear you, I understand, it does fucking suck. But what we take away when we share that with somebody is that we don't feel lonely. There is someone there. There's always someone there. That is the comfort that we take with, communicating and sharing those feelings. So the fact that the society, despite that they're trying to be precise with everything and to make sure that no one feels pain, they have taken away such an essential, like, human part of us that makes it feel more than just simple, easy. We feel that love. Despite the knowing awareness of the danger of the flame, there is still celebration and care and love and warmth and safety, despite that pain. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's, yeah.
I can say another thing that's just like from you sharing that stuck out to me is the way that you like really that last line of like, and he could do nothing, like sits with him. And I don't know, the word that's in my head is futility. I don't know if that's like, does that mean something to you, or is that just, am I like out in the middle of nowhere? But like that futility. Yeah.
Well,
I honestly just think of the words memento mori, like everybody dies. So it's
this
kind
is a
of
great
like,
point of view. There's
know,
pain,
death
but
is
still a
painful,
celebration.
but
Hey,
it
Hicks.
happens to
Glad to have you
everybody.
back.
So what are we going to do while we're alive? Sorry, I totally
Yeah.
cut you off.
No.
Ironically always thought of. I was just gonna say I always thought of memento mori as actually more of a positive than a negative in a morbid way, for exactly that. It's really no different than saying live for today.
I think the difference between my perspective of life and this book and what the perspective Jonas has is that he really feels like he can do nothing, whereas I already have all these emotions and these actions, and I know that I can make a difference, which is why I go to therapy. It's it's not an overnight process by any means, but it is certainly something that I can start striving towards. I think the thing that makes it trickier, though, is that I'm not just dealing with past events. Just like in this story, in this book, they got rid of everything because of past events, and therefore they drew the line, like we talked about. It's not just that with me. I'm having to deal with current and continual events because of the condition, the disease, the chronic nature of it, which does unfortunately include pain as well. So I feel you on that one. Like I'm on pain pills right now. So it's like, it's an ongoing thing. And if you think of like a Jenga puzzle and you're stacking stuff up that you have to deal with that's a negative, and then you try and add in some positives in there. As soon as you pull out one of those positives, it might bring everything down. Or if you try and remove a negative, it might make other things crash,
And yet there are people out there who figure out a way to cut it off so fast, right? I don't know if anyone has seen those videos, but shout out to the physics experts out there. But if you hit one of like the lone blocks that are positioned at that point of the Jenga tower and just hit it so fast, it just slips out, and then the rest of it just lands in like the perfect gravity. And I'm just like, that's crazy.
Garuki,
there are some
what's up?
people who can do that, and that kind of, in a way, gives me a little hope.
Well,
I think.
Yeah.
Aaron, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just, the discussions that have been had about the loneliness and whatnot. I don't think the book did justice to Rosemary. Rosemary was the young lady that was the receiver before, and we get told that he gave her pain and she just turned away from that. Jonas was worried that he had given her war and that she would run away from war. No, what did he give her? He gave her loneliness, and that was enough to cause Rosemary to
Lost.
Don't go any further,
desire
that's
to
my
be
reading
released.
spot.
Oh, okay. I won't go any further. into
No,
it,
no.
sorry.
I was just gonna say like this is a perfect transition into Jubilee, and I think the discussion will likely continue in that way. So like, thank you, Aaron, for the perfect
Segue.
transition segue.
Before we
That's a
dive
good
into
segue.
Jubilees, I did
Yeah,
want
yeah.
to share something from my chat. True Golden Eagle, who, if you recall, has not read the book but is still with us because he's very engaged and loving the conversation we're having about this, says that you could actually almost view taking away all emotion as an act of love. I know one thing that makes me not want to be a parent is knowing that that child will at some point experience pain, and this is almost a way to shield people from that. And I commented back to him that it goes back to what Jeffrey was saying about that. I think you said C.S. Lewis was talking about how love and grief or love and pain are really two sides of one coin. And if you take that away, life just loses depth altogether.
I get what he's saying, though.
And
I mean,
Yeah.
absolutely.
my son has the same heart genetic disease that I have. Whether something will grow out of that, I don't know, but having to watch him as I do every day grow up, it kills me.
Yeah, it's a reasonable thought to feel it from both ends, because sometimes that contrast is too much to bear, the grief and pain side of it, that
Yeah.
we wish we could numb out, but it's hard because as we see exemplified here in this book, when you remove it, then is the love even really there? Is the compassion for other people really there? And that's really what brings light to it all.
Yeah. And I think that, like, you know, we all have that feeling, obviously, because we all, like, sat here and were like, well, you know, there's probably a good reason why they ended up in the place they are, right? Like, we can see the logic of it. But it's not all law, of course, right? Like, that's
And I
where
think that's why
feelings get messed in, right?
I think that's why it takes us so long, at least it did for me, that we had to only learn that it was a dystopia through Jonas's learning of color and love and things like that, to realize that it wasn't a utopia, because it was like, this sounds pretty good. Nobody goes hungry here. Everything's balanced. Nobody fights. Kids are raised well. They have values. And then you're like, oh, wait, to live without that, though, to be told by your parents that they don't love you and they only appreciate your accomplishments feels so hollow.
I'll still take 7-day vacation though.
I know.
Yeah,
It's like, it's almost
true.
like, is there an on-off button? Can we not
Because
do
that-
that all the
again-
time?
Yeah.
True.
Because again, these are like these
sometimes.
common talks with regular society. Like, again, going back to color, like, oh, that color looks awful on you. Like, yo, why do you need to say that? Like, some people, you know, they have their choices to say these things because of how they feel, and suddenly we're getting a society that's like, we're gonna prevent you from doing that so you don't cause too much trouble and like stress everyone out. Just color, love, things that are human of us, just not there. It gives birth to so many things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's insane. Because in this world, there's like no fashion, no art, no music. Can't really express yourself like that.
No beauty whatsoever, right?
No,
Yeah,
No.
like all of us are wearing something different. Imagine we were all wearing the same thing. It's pretty insane.
Then this would be a very branded USG stream.
I was like, I'm not gonna say anything about what everybody's wearing, because I'm sure that what I wear probably would not look good on some guys, and some things that other guys wear or women wear probably wouldn't look good on. Your body types are all different, so I understand that.
And yours
that's
is
the thing.
digital,
Like, we want to bring the conversation where we should be celebrating all body types versus like having to set a line as to, you know, what's great and what's not. It's just
Exactly. Well, I do appreciate you talking about Rosemary, Aaron. That was actually the portion of the book that I was asking to read, and it's going to take a little bit of time to kind of explain and go into what I was wanting to read, and then I'm taking a portion out of chapters 18, 19, and 20. So I'll try and read it as quickly as I possibly can, and let you guys comment afterward. I don't know for sure how much time I have. Aaron or Jeffrey did say that I could go past my allotted amount of time, so that's fine. Coming into Rosemary and the conversation that starts with that goes into what her story is. When Jonas was given the position of the receiver of memories, he was told that there was another receiver 10 years earlier, and it just ended in tragedy, but he didn't realize what it was. Nobody told him specifically what it was, just that it was a bad topic. And when he asked his parents what the name of that receiver was, they said, we don't speak her name. Her name is not spoken. Nobody in society ever talks about her. She's basically dead to us. So Jonas, during one of his sessions with the giver, was, of course, very curious and said, what was her name? He just wanted to know who she was. And the giver told him that her name was Rosemary. And by speaking her name for the first time in 10 years, that was, I guess, a revelation to Jonas. He didn't realize the power in a name until he heard her name being spoken. And then the giver started remembering Rosemary, and he touched his cheek because he remembered the last time that she'd said goodbye to him and kissed his cheek and left. And Jonas asked the giver what happened. What was so wrong about this last receiver of memories? And in chapter 18, the giver starts talking about her, and he said, the giver closed his eyes. It broke my heart, Jonas, to transfer pain to her, but it was my job. It was what I had to do, the way I've had to do it to you. The room was silent. Jonas waited. Finally, the giver continued. 5 weeks. That was all. I gave her happy memories. A ride on a merry-go-round, a kitten to play with, a picnic. Sometimes I chose one just because I knew it would make her laugh, and so I treasured the sound of that laughter in this room that had always been so silent. But she was like you, Jonas. She wanted to experience everything. She knew that it was her responsibility, and so she asked me for more difficult memories. And at that point, Jonas was completely shocked. He had already received a lot of pain from the giver. And he said, oh, you didn't give her the worst. You didn't give her war, did you? And he said, no, I didn't give her that one. But I gave her anguish of many kinds, poverty and hunger and terror. I had to, Jonas. It was my job, and she had been chosen. The giver looked at him imploringly. Jonas stroked his hand. Finally, one afternoon, we finished for the day. It had been a hard session. I tried to finish it, as I do with you, by transferring something happy and cheerful. But the times of laughter were gone by then. She stood up very silently, frowning as if she were making a decision. Then she came over to me and put her arms around me. She kissed my cheek. As Jonas watched, the giver stroked his own cheek, recalling the touch of Rosemary's lips 10 years before. She left here that day, left this room, and did not go back to her dwelling. I was notified by the speaker that she had gone directly to the chief elder and asked to be released. And at that time, Jonas didn't know what being released meant. So he was just shocked that she would ask to be... The rules that he had been given was that she could not ask for a release. And in the rule book, it said, you can't ask for release. So he was like, no, you can't do that. Well, that was not the rules with Rosemary. Those rules were made after Rosemary's situation, and he didn't realize how much that was a pivotal moment.
They changed the rules after
that 10
Rosemary.
years before, because the giver then told him those memories that I gave her were then released onto society, and society couldn't take those memories, and it went crazy at that time, and I was brought in to try and fix things. And so Jonas then, of course, starts asking more about, well, what happened with Rosemary, and what was the situation with our life now. We have to be able to give those memories to our society so that they can be able to learn right from wrong and not have to ask you all the time. He then found out that something was going to happen with Gabriel and learned what release was, and that it was a death sentence. And so he said, well, what did Rosemary do? Rosemary had actually gone in and asked for her own release, and it was given, she gave it to herself. She actually injected herself with the poison and killed herself because of how devastating those memories were. So once Jonas finds out, of course, that Gabriel is going to be killed, he starts concocting an idea with the giver, and he tells him, well, I'm going to take Gabriel and I'm going to bring him outside of the community, and then those memories that I have will then be released onto the community, and you'll be here to fix all of them. So they started coming up with this plan, and they figured out how Jonas was going to escape with Gabriel. And then when he saw the death of the little boy that was the younger of the two, or the smaller of the two twins, he refused to go back home.
Right.
Found out how release was being done, that it was a death sentence. And then going on into the end of chapter 20, after they had made all of their plans and Jonas was going back home and told him that he'd see him later, Jonas says, yes, I understand that they'll need you. Jonas had said at the end of the lengthy discussion and planning, but I'll need you too. Please come with me. He knew the answer even as he made the final plea. My work will be finished, the giver had replied gently, when I have helped the community to change and become whole. I'm grateful to you, Jonas, because without you, I would never have figured out a way to bring about the change. But your role now is to escape, and my role is to stay. But don't you want to be with me, Giver? Jonas asked sadly. The giver hugged him. I love you, Jonas, he said, but I have another place to go. When my work here is finished, I want to be with my daughter. Jonas had been staring glumly at the floor. Now, he looked up startled. I didn't know you had a daughter, Giver. You told me that you had a spouse, but I never knew about your daughter. The giver smiled and nodded. For the first time in their long months together, Jonas saw him look truly happy. Her name was Rosemary, the giver said. This all happened to his own daughter. I can't imagine he feels feelings. The giver feels. He knows happiness, sadness, loss, turmoil, love, anger, pain. And he brought up his own daughter to be the receiver of those memories, and then watched her go through the turmoil and kill herself. And I can't imagine what a parent would go through, because I don't have my own child. But that had to have been so devastating.
See, there I can see why the society makes sense, right? I would not want someone else like at risk to have gone out the way Rosemary did. Just wanted out.
She was 12.
She was 12.
And the injected herself part is just like, and I don't know if you read this part, if I was engaging with my chat or not, but there's a line in the book too, when he says, I don't know about bravery, but like basically saying she didn't cop out, she wasn't a scared cat. If there is any bravery, it is choosing your own death and implementing your own death.
Yeah.
I imagined that the relationship between the giver and Rosemary, if she was his daughter, in the same way that just naturally Jonas very quickly discovered that Gabe could be a receiver and received some memories. You'd imagine at some point, raising this little girl, he discovered that she had this ability. And finally, he has someone he can share it with, and it's his daughter, and it's day in, day out, and rearing her up to prepare for all of that. And then it's tragedy.
The emotions that this book brings out are beyond the years that we were supposed to read them in school. This is more of an adult book.
Which is why I said that's intense. You guys read that.
Yeah,
like, whoa.
Exactly. This is beyond grade school level. This is more things that should be brought up in college in a theological discussion of some kind. And I don't know if you guys got the same Kindle version that I did, but at the very end, I sent the screenshots to Aaron because he was like, "Oh, is that how the book ends?" I said, "No, there's 3 more books that explain a little bit more." And so I sent the
Right.
screenshot that were from the author's own words, and I'm gonna actually read those out loud on stream if I could
Yeah.
also read that, because that was
Do it.
okay. All right, let me skip over to that part.
While you're getting there, there was this really interesting, and I found it challenging, Terry Pratchett documentary that I was just reminded of with your comment, Rogue, about how they talk about, the giver is like, that's bravery. Terry Pratchett had early onset dementia, and he did a documentary exploring medical assistance in death, because he's like, my mind is everything, what do I do with this? And they followed the story of 3 people that were kind of like going through this process. And I think in the conservative circles that I grew up in, there's a lot of rhetoric around, like, framing medical assistance in death in a really negative way. And the framing of the documentary is such that, in the similar way to how the giver talks about Rosemary, this person who's making this choice, there's such a bravery, and you like follow them right to the end. It was really, really profoundly challenging for me. I believe it's called Choosing to Die. If anyone is interested in the topic, I don't know that we'll dive into it with this discussion, but very thought-provoking and challenging, and yeah, it's interesting. But there is definitely like that, a piece of bravery in the midst of that.
Skunk mentioned in my chat that the concepts were certainly very mature, but were written in a way that could be conveyed, illustrated masterfully to a still-forming child.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think basically what we're doing is the best way you can read this book multiple times over the different stages of your life.
Yeah.
Well, for those of us who did read it when we were younger, I should say.
Yeah,
But
this
even
was
as an
not on
adult,
my
it's
school list as a child in the UK.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
not.
I don't remember when I read it.
I would like to say that this book, reading it now, like there's a whole nother layer or dimension that I didn't really pick up the first time. Like the whole fact that the giver experienced this with his own daughter, and that it made a change in their society's rules. Because I think someone here mentioned that it wasn't in their rules to begin with. So it
Right.
seems like those that do, are in the giver's position, they don't necessarily go through stuff like this. They don't really have someone go up and just release himself. But I'm sure that throughout history, there has been times where people have chosen not to live. But now it's gotten to a point in this whole spectrum where they're at a tipping point where, yes, you have all these memories, all these feelings. You are the giver, you are the receiver, but you're still making this choice to. And then now, this whole society is like, okay, I guess we need to write those into the rules. So it's
Well,
But it's also a reflection of modern day person that figures out, you know what, or not figures out, but decides that life is too much. I'm done. But they don't have to go ask
Wait.
permission.
yeah, and like Jonas and Rosemary are 2 sides of like the 2 ways that we can respond, right? Like there's hope in Jonas, this could be different, and there's despair in Rosemary. I cannot go on with this. And you kind of see, right? Like the 2 sides, and like Rosemary, in a way, like she really reflects, like she continues in the way of the society, which is just like the society killed all of the emotions, right? Rosemary went about that the only way that she could. Jonas said there has to be another way because he chose hope. Like that's like the unique characteristic of who Jonas is there's hope there.
Where they
But
keep
us as individuals
Jubilee, you
also, oh sorry.
No, I was gonna say you had something.
Well, us as individuals also, we make our conscious decisions if we're in multiple relationships or we've had, heartache in the past, or our family wasn't, growing up in a I mentioned this in Aaron's chat, growing up in a family that had that disconnect. As an adult, I want to give the best to people who are around me because I didn't receive that training as a child.
Yeah.
And so we make choices almost like this community did. They said, okay, well, this happened in the past, so we're going to make this a rule now. We do that to ourselves. We say, well, this happened to me in the past, so I'm not going to let it happen, and I'm going to not allow this to be an issue. I'm going to stop this. I'm going to put this to where I can't be hurt that same way again. But I did find that part in the book that was talking. This is from Lois Lowry's own writing. It was at the end of the Kindle book that I got, and it's a little three-page thing that shows up on my screen, so it's not going to be very long, but it just says ever after. Over the many years since The Giver was published in 1993. For some of you, that was after you were born. Some of you, it was before you were born, but we're not going to go into the details on that. I have received countless, probably thousands of letters and emails from readers. So many of them asked what had happened to the boy Jonas and the baby Gabriel. I had left the ending ambiguous on purpose. I liked the mystery of it, the opportunity for the reader to ponder and decide, but I too was pondering. In 2000, 7 years later, the companion volume Gathering Blue appeared, revealing that Jonas, he wasn't named, readers identified the teenage boy with blue eyes easily, was thriving in another community. 4 years after that, in Messenger, they were able to meet him as a young man now leading the small village where he lived. But where's Gabriel? Kids asked me, almost wailing, and I told them to go back and read chapter 2 more carefully. There, they would find an 8-year-old named Gabe, staying after school because he had been inattentive. Finally, in the fourth and final book of the quartet, Sun, published in 2012, the now teenaged Gabe moved to center stage, finding his own place in the world, helping, in fact, to change that world, so the question of what happened to was put to rest. But there had been another question throughout the years. What happened to the community after Jonas and Gabriel were gone? None of the companion books to The Giver had revisited that world. Kids wanted to know whether they, Lily, Fiona, Mother, Father, Asher, and all the others, lived happily ever after. I couldn't promise them that. I simply replied to readers, the community changed. Of course it changed. My own vision of that community had come, I think, from the fact that I was the child of a military officer. I've never much liked the term army brat, but that's what such children are called. It meant that I often moved from place to place. I went to 8th grade in Tokyo, 9th grade in Pennsylvania, 10th grade in New York. The geography was always different, but somehow with each move came a familiarity because of the rigidity and reliability of military life. If your dad had a high rank, as my dad did, your family had an impressive house. The big houses stood in a line or a semicircle. On some military bases, it's called Colonel's Row. And your shrubbery was meticulously trimmed.
Sound
On one
familiar
base,
to
which
your
housed a
story,
military
Skunk?
prison, the mowing and trimming was done by prisoners. No laundry would hang on a clothesline, and these were the days before dryers, after 5 p.m. 5 p.m. was an important time on an army post. It signaled the end of the day, and every evening at that time, over a loudspeaker, a bugle sounded retreat. While the flag was lowered, the national anthem was played, and there were strict rules about one's behavior during that time.
Mm-hmm.
I, myself, Jubilee, just like Lois Lowry, grew up on a military base, and I know exactly what she's saying. And there was always a set amount, and at 5 o'clock, it didn't matter what happened. You dropped your bike, you dropped your clothes, you put your hand over your heart, you faced toward the sound of that bugle, you sang the national anthem, and then after it was over, you went back around your merry ways. But it was so weird to see that construct also in The Giver as her idea for what the community was going to be like, because as I said in Aaron's chat, this is a community. We were talking about the fact that this is sometime in the ambiguous future. We don't know when it is or anything like that, but there are also communities that are living like this now. Maybe it's not black and white in their community, but they are told what to wear. They're told where to go. They're told who to speak to. They're told who to marry. It doesn't have to be something in the far future. It is determined upon the society and where you are brought up to actually be what this book is now. And it's opening the eyes of people technically on the outside to what goes on in some of those type of communities. I'm sure the people that are in those communities would not be allowed to read this book. There's certain places that this book is not even, it's forbidden to be read. So that's another concept, that it's not always something that's perhaps coming in the future. It could be, to some people, society that they live in right now.
It's just another culture, essentially.
Yeah, like I grew up going to camp with kids who like were gonna be in arranged marriages, and they were just like, yeah, of course my parents are gonna pick who I'm gonna marry. Like, they know me really well and I trust them. And I was just like, yikes. But yeah, like, I mean, doing well.
Pressure's off, though. Hey.
Medic, your face.
No, it's just like I just
Go ahead.
because we say that like it's so easy, like, oh, they know me so well. It's like, do they? Do they ever know the little nuances that we all have for ourselves? Like me making all these faces to everything. Like I was about to cry just 15 minutes ago. Like if I had an arranged marriage, like my husband would not know of these little things of me and then be like, she's crazy. Who is this? What's her deal? And then it wouldn't be as happy as what my parents expected of me. Like
There are things
The
hidden in
weirdness-
the
Yeah, not for me.
shadows. Yeah.
I'm
whoa.
glad that I picked my own wife. She's hiding back there somewhere,
Oh yeah.
sleeping on the couch with my stream up on her
No.
phone.
She's like,
Cute. The weirdest thing to me is like that anyone external could know you enough to make a decision like that better than yourself. Like I don't
Yeah.
even know myself well enough. I had to make mistakes before finding the right person, and some people are, my age and still figuring that out. So it's like to have trust that some external source knows the minutia of your being well enough to match you with someone else, or match a job even for you. It's like, well, I'm constantly changing. I'm too unique for me to be able to pin down. How are you gonna do it?
In
Well,
this,
and this is the individual versus like the like member of society, like because the truth is, like, people picking who they're going to marry, people picking what they were going to do for a job, for a living, like these are very new concepts in the scope of human history, right?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, in this book, though, it makes me wonder. Like, you talk about the minutia of knowing every hair on your head, so to speak. But it makes me wonder, in this dystopian setting, if it wasn't really about knowing you that well, but knowing you enough that you will conquer a job and do it to the ability that it needs to be done, so we can check a box, cross our T's and dot our I's. The spouse
At the
part,
age of
though.
13.
It's true.
Right,
It's not about
exactly.
your happiness. It's about your contribution to society.
Yeah, it's a cog and a bunch of other cogs making everything spin.
It's not what your country can do for you.
Yeah. It's what you can do for your utopia. It's a good book, though.
Very.
I'm happy to know that the ending, that we don't just start off with a couple of new characters. So.
Well, and I started to read the
If you
second
read
book, and I
During
felt
Blue, you do
disjointed
start off
because
with-
of that.
Well, I
Just
mean,
new people. Yeah.
I mean that it's not like Jonas is dead. Like, that was my assumption.
Yeah, as I was gonna say, I started reading the second book, and I was like, oh, this is an entirely standalone book, and I was like, oh, I've lost interest. I wanted exactly what Jubilee just gave me, which was the conclusion of what happened, what's further. And for me, I honestly was unsettled with the ending, not just because it was left vague, did he live or did he die, but also because the last chapter is really following Jonas's hardships as he faces, some of the worst things trying to pull him and Gabe through it.
Right, skunk. Yeah,
But we've
definitely
grown
was.
so invested in the flaws, and like this whole pretty much book discussions has been us being like, it's a dystopia, but we know exactly how they got there. and it's so finely a dystopia because there's so much good that we can see in the intentions and the actions that brought them there. So it's like we're so attached to the society to just kind of drop it and be like, well, he's going to run away and they're going to figure it out because they're going to get these memories. I felt like it was kind of, it wasn't resolved enough for me. I really wanted to know what happened with the society. And I know only a couple of us here actually watched the movie, but I watched the movie last night with my husband, and I just felt like they kind of did, the classic film thing where you're watching Jonas, trying to make his escape, but you're also watching things happen back in the society. And it doesn't give us any more resolve of what happens after they receive the memories, but you kind of see the leading up to, and then just the color spreading across the city, just the acknowledgement that they did in fact receive those memories. And for some reason, for me, that left me feeling a lot more resolved after watching that. And again, still an amazing book, so much to talk about, so many valid points that it brings up, but I was left a little like, wait, what? At the ending.
Yeah, there's a certain emptiness to it, or within yourself because of it. So it's, yeah, I'm happy to know that there's more. Will I read the others? I don't know. I'm not sure.
I really like what Kat was saying about about Jonas leaving. This society is constantly evolving, that I've learned, and I think that's like the way I kind of see the end of the book, is that this society is gonna keep evolving. Jonas leaving, Rosemary taking herself out, releasing herself. So I'm pretty sure more is gonna happen in this book. I can only imagine. But yeah, that's just ringing to my head.
But which direction? Again,
Yeah, which
to avoid
direction?
pain, or this time to use it to inform?
I
You
think
know?
it's a tug of war, honestly, in my opinion. I feel like it's gonna go back and forth, back and forth.
Well, their receiver / giver just abandoned ship, so
Yeah, they gotta think something's going wrong.
It's not
And
going
I think
around.
that's something that stands out to me from that last section that Jubilee read, is like she says, like Losari, the author, she says, what happened to the society, the community? They changed. They had to. And I think something that we were kind of hinting at earlier in the discussion, like way back an hour and a half ago or something, like this idea that for us, the surrender of those things, color and blah, 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 like that would be obscene. But in our society, there are things that we have surrendered, right? But just feel normal. And for these people, getting back, like when all of the emotions of Rosemary were released back into the society, they were just like, nope, back to what we had before. But with everything that Jonas was carrying, having that go back into society, they could not remain unchanged. They couldn't turn around and run away. They had to pass through into a new way of being, because they had that level of understanding
change is the only
that they
thing
could no
that you can
longer
rely on.
tolerate the way that life was. Right now, what the new society they built looks like, who knows? Blah 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 blah. But like, they could not be the same. And I think that when we talk about trauma in people's lives, it's the same kind of rhetoric, is like, and hopefully like with big, wonderful, beautiful feelings like love, like when you really, people talk about your life changing when you have a child. I haven't gone through that yet, but like that there's a sense in which, especially with trauma, people are like, I just want to go back to the way that it was before. But you will never go back to the way that it was before. But there's the potential that you could go on to something even greater. But you're never going to get back to where you were before. There must be change.
Add to that, my chatter, True Golden Eagle, says, it seemed the society and community changed as the author changed. The quote that she was still pondering what happened herself, and obviously so many years you wouldn't be the same person who wrote the book. So it seems in a way to evolve as she did. I think that's
interesting.
That kind of backs that up. Yeah.
Shows to the great contributions from True Golden Eagle. Can I also just give a shout out to Miruski, who was my 50th follower. So big Sally on that. Thank you so much for the follow tonight.
Congratulations.
Congrats. Can
Now
I give
you
a
need
shout
to
out
let
to to Endo in my chat. He said he watched the movie, but after listening to us, he's a lot more intrigued into going more into the actual story. So that's
It's a quick read. It's worth it.
Skunk has been chatting up a storm in my chat too, and he did read the book, by the way. We all thought he didn't. He was trying to sneak by, but now it's out there.
I did
I was
have
just-
one more comment, book talk wise, throwing back. Sorry, were we done with shoutouts?
No. go
Yeah, I
ahead.
think. Oh, yeah, go for it. Back to the book.
So just one thought that I wanted to bring up, and then Jubilee wanted to find that end piece, so I wasn't sure if it was more about Rosemary or not. But with the fact that Rosemary, after only 5 weeks and her first exposure to loss and isolation and such, were the things that turned her. I think that it was something that led me to think that it was interesting how the giver's first experiences of pain that he chose for Jonas instead were all physical pain originally. The first major pain that he gave him was falling off a sled and breaking a leg, and things like that of that nature, and worked him up to the more
Sunburn,
emotional
yeah.
pains. Yeah, sunburn. That was the other one. Yeah, sunburn. I think was the very first one, right?
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Either way, ow.
That was the one I got wrong, so I couldn't give you the answer.
Well, to kind of wrap this all up into a wonderful little bundle that this stream has been, the same question that has already been answered by a few people tonight, but the same question I asked last time is to our streamers: would you recommend this book to other people?
Absolutely. It's definitely worth reading.
really.
If you
Very
have not
cool.
read it yet,
So everyone out there, please,
Absolutely.
It's
if
not
you
expensive.
haven't read it, we would recommend you do
definitely
grab
go get a copy.
But onwards onto the future and looking out for what is to come next time. So next month, so in about a month's time, it's Halloween. It's
Yes.
spooky, scary Halloween time.
Halloween.
If you celebrate that kind of thing. So we're going to do a spooky book for next month's book club, and we're giving you guys the announcement now to give you plenty of time and no excuse to.
So this is the
know
book
what
that I'll
to
be reading
read.
in my
So
Discord
for the next
subscribers.
book club stream, we are reading Coraline by Neil Gaiman. To give you a little bit of a it's fantastic. To give you a little bit of a description, the product description, the little blurb. When a young girl ventures through a hidden door, she finds another life with shocking similarities to her own. Coraline has moved to a new house with her parents.
Of course you've
and
read it,
she's
Skunk.
fascinated by the fact that their house is, in fact, only half a house. Divided into flats years before, there is a brick wall behind a door where once there was a corridor. One day it is a corridor again, and the intrepid Coraline wanders down it. And so a nightmarish mystery begins to take Coraline into the arms of counterfeit parents and a life that isn't quite right. Can Coraline get out? Can she find her real parents? Will life ever be
I
the
see.
same
Well, that
again?
makes sense.
So
I'm looking forward to
that'll
reading
be
it.
next month's stream. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here, viewers, streamers.
Yeah,
everyone.
Skunk, thank you for
One
being so
last
active in
shout out
chat.
to each of the wonderful members
And
of
to
our
Norse
streams
for
that,
rating
shared their
as you did.
wonderful thoughts.
So appreciate that.
1020, Ikakoro, Witch Medic, The Recreational Rogue, Jeffrey's Web, and Jubilee OBI. You can find their links on my stream in the About section below. There's a panel you can click and go and visit them.
Good times indeed. And don't
we
forget,
would love to see each
tomorrow
of you
we continue
in
with the
each
War
our
of the Worlds.
other streams from time to time.
Looking forward to getting
Particularly,
back into that.
Let's get Witch Medic and Jeffrey's Web that affiliate, okay? So they need an average of 3 viewers minimum and 50 new followers within a month, within a 30-day period. So we can do that. Let's do that. Let's go support them in that endeavor. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all, and thanks for doing the quiz as well, putting this on. And yeah, look forward to the next one.
Absolutely.
This one was good. Thank you.
So to my chatters,
much.
thank you again so much for coming in.
Thanks so much, everyone. Yeah,
I'm gonna check
appreciate all
to
of
see
you
if there's
coming
anyone
out,
that we can
and,
raid,
we'll see y'all soon, hopefully.
possibly. I'm not sure who else is going
Okay,
to
just
be
ended my stream.
staying on.
Yay, that was so fun. I can't even begin to tell you. I was like, people that love books as much as I do. And it's not very popular on Twitch
Let me just
right
get
now.
rid of my
When I
Discord real
first
quick.
started, I couldn't find a single person.
There we go. Alright, I cannot find anyone for us to raid right now, so I'm just gonna end it. So thank you again. And I'll see you tomorrow when we continue with the War of the Worlds. Have a great night.